Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd say start off with security training. Your folks are the people out there on the front lines dealing with the emails that come in, the phishing, all the stuff that they deal with every day. And if you train them up to know how to spot these things and how to deal with them, to say something, that goes a long way to help protecting your front line of defense. You got to think.
Knowing the actual infrastructure. Start on that physical level, know what's inside of your organization physically there on site, and also knowing what's not hosted on site. Let's say you have email services being hosted by Gmail. Well, that's not on site, but the clients are. So take a full physical inventory of whatever's in the building that you can physically touch, and also the bring your own devices, such as the phones and everything like that. And then from there, when you have your physical list, you can start to assign security concerns based on those different devices. So if you know that you have a workstation that's running Windows 10, you know to run your updates every so often. And outside of that, for the things that are in the cloud or on different server farms, we know that we get with that manufacturer or vendor to make sure that everything stays up to date as well, and that we're informed of any possible vulnerabilities.
Great. I actually agree with what Bob is also mentioning, especially sometimes with small organizations, people tend to feel, you know what, we're not that big for us to really become a target. But smaller organizations are also prone to lots of attacks, and there's the kind of attacks that may actually be quite petty, and in your configurations or in your setup and planning, if everything isn't just put in place. You can think of basic things such as multi-factor authentication. If that isn't put in place, you might actually discover or just figure out that it may cost you a lot, or it could actually lead into bankruptcy. So these are basic things that may seem to be too big to achieve, or maybe they may only seem to be synonymous with large organizations, but having them in place would really go a long way. And the very basic thing, of course, is providing training. It's very important to make sure that each and every person who is actually handling the sensitive data that you have in your environment is aware, and they're able to tell when something is malicious. They can have all these telltale signs and be able to understand that something is likely to be a Trojan as opposed to being legit or legitimate information.
Yeah. And I do know that the small business SMB area is generally limited on budget, right? They don't have a lot of money to spend, and the training is very cost efficient. And the other thing though, they can do for free, I mean, just update your Windows, and anybody can update a Windows, right? You go to your Windows update and say, install your updates, and that's really going to help. And it doesn't cost you anything.
Bob, I want to pat you on the back for a minute, because your Security Plus courses actually touch on this in a great way in regards to return of investment. So is the lemon worth the squeeze when it concerns how much effort we want to put into this versus can we get more profit-driven success from outsourcing to somebody like AWS SOC or Security Operations Center for that 24-hour coverage? If we don't have the people on site and we don't have the resources on site, let's not be afraid to reach out to professionals while also training ourselves for that frontline defense. I can speak a lot on this, and somebody's going to have to poke me with a stick to stop me if I go too much. Here lately, I've been covering digital forensics. We have an intro to digital forensics here on CBT Nuggets now in a miniature course. The actual experience is in the law enforcement field right now. For the state of Texas, for us, it's making sure that we're certified based on a general analyst examination that covers ethics, that covers nothing particular to do with actual digital forensics itself. But there are plenty of police stations, there are plenty other organizations out there that need that expertise and want people to come into practice. If you've been through the training for cybersecurity already, you know how important it is to log everything. And a large part of what we do in the forensics field is log everything that we're doing. Make your original copies from the source material that you're trying to analyze, and just don't be afraid to make more than one copy and do it again. If you can't find what you're looking for, try again. For at-home practice, if that's what you're looking for, it's use FTK Imager to be able to make a couple of forensics images of a hard drive, a DVD, a floppy disk, whatever the case may be. Practice. Go find that metadata on that image file. Go find hidden hashes off of files that may have been deleted a couple of weeks prior. Just get some material to be able to practice on, and don't be afraid to reach out to local organizations, especially on that state and local government level, to see if there's a way for you to be able to even pro bono volunteer work for them. And a lot in East Texas right now is that's where that's going. I'm working currently with 173rd District out of East Texas, and the first 4 cases I worked on were pro bono. And as long as you document everything correctly and build up how you did everything in such a way to where it's understandable by the layperson, then you're going to have a very easy time to present that evidence and get that experience down. Because the moment you get it done once and you present once, everybody will want you. Everybody's going to want you in law enforcement. And then it goes from there to actual organizations that do it for business protection. Proprietary information is always getting leaked out. Where's it coming from? How's it going there? Are you learning how to sniff in wire? Are you using Wiretrip or any kind of other software to figure out if hashes are going across the wire that shouldn't be going across the wire? And this all falls in forensics, which is why the wonderful folks here at CBT Nuggets are starting to push into that forensics and cybersecurity field. And the background for all that is with these 2 gentlemen here, Bob and John both, to teach the basics. And if you've taken any of my courses, you know that if you know how the lock works and you can pick it, you can make a stronger lock. And so you have to learn your security first and learn how to take care of your services on site, and then start pen testing. Make sure you have permission. Get permission. But without the security of basic background, moving forward needs to be able to evolve itself, if that makes sense.
Great. Erik, just one more thing that I just wanted to add over there is the fact that forensics is actually dealing with very sensitive information, and not so many organizations or people would actually divulge that kind of information to you. So you have to be somebody whom they can trust. And the best way to be trusted is by creating networks. Find yourself in environments where people are doing similar things are actually found, and be somebody that they can trust with the kind of information that you expect to see. And thereby you would eventually find yourself in a better spot.
Absolutely.
Well, I would actually say CEH is more of an entry level to a lot of greater things that you can do. It is quite robust, but you're simply entering a world where you want to be able to defend systems, for example. If you're aiming to get into the red teams, or you're looking at maybe how you could become better, I would say looking into offensive security is a better way of going. You might also maybe consider going into CISSP, which Bob actually has here at CBT Nuggets. And I think anything that is going to put you in a trajectory where you're able to decide whether you're going to continue defending systems, or you'd like to go and look into how you would manage security information and making sure that organizations are compliant. So it is a double-folded kind of thing, whether you want to go into pen testing, becoming more technical, or you want to go into maybe management. Maybe you're aiming to becoming CISO one day and begin looking at your CISSP, your CISSM, and other related certifications.
Yeah, and just to go along with that, I think it really comes down to a lot of folks when they start in security, they see something like CEH and it has hacker in the name, so it sells, right? So they go through, they do the CEH, and then, what's next? That's the question. Well, it depends. Do you like pen testing? Do you like red teaming? If that's what you like and enjoy, then go with that. Go for the OSCP next. There's lots of offensive security certifications out there. But if you're on the fence, you're like, I think it's interesting, but I'd like to see what else is out there, then I would go with your defensive search, looking at your analyst, like your CompTIA CYSA, your security analyst certification. So that way you get to see both sides of the house, especially if you're just starting out. So that way you can see, I like this one better, I like that one better. And it doesn't hurt, because then you get to understand what's happening on both sides of the aisle there, and then you can pick a path that you're more passionate about, because then you're going to do better at it. That's what I'd say.
I don't want to beat up on any particular certification at all. I don't want to diminish the value of one or overinflate it either. Yeah. But do know that Certified Ethical Hacker, along with any other certification, is that comfort for you and your employer to know that there's a baseline of understanding of any particular field. So you have CEH, and that shows that you have gone through the intensive training and understanding to know that there is an ethical limit to what we do as pen testers. Whereas somebody else trying to get in that pen testing field that doesn't have it cannot prove on paper that they have that ethical understanding or morality that goes into pen testing and other fields. And like Bob and both John were saying, you may realize that you don't like pen testing. But certifications and training involved that are like CEH are pathways for a learner to evolve and understand what their next path is. If you start CEH route and you say, I need to understand how Microsoft works a little bit more, and so I can be able to break in and pen test it properly. And then you find out that, you know what, all along that you've been a SQL admin in hiding. And now you have a career ahead of you and a purpose-driven area of focus that you're going to. So be open to change that path and be open to learn more.
Well, the CISO is a unique position because generally a lot of us when you start off, we're starting off at a lower level and we're really coming in and we're doing the defensive side of the house or for security, or we're doing sysadmin work. But when it comes to a CISO and security, really it's a lot of oversight. So at that point, you really need to change your thought. We're not thinking about certain types of patches and these types of attacks that are going. It's non-technical. You're looking for your administrative, managerial training of thought when it comes to security. So that would fall under like the CISP. CISSP certification is a good place to go for that because really it comes down to the administrative side of security. We're dealing with compliance. We're dealing with regulatory compliances and regulations and policies and procedures and the oversight and implementation of those so that you can go in and create a security program from nothing or go into place with a security program and say, hey, is this adequate or is it not adequate? And how do I go about finding that out? How can I say, you know what, there needs to be checks and balances in here. We need to do some type of overhaul or auditing of what we have to make sure it fits the needs of the organization so that we can protect the organization and its assets. Because really that's what the CISO is going to be overseeing. Got to make sure that the organizational assets are secured so that, well, they don't go out of business. They don't get hacked and taken out, you know, like some other companies have had it happen to them. Thoughts?
One of the most underrated values. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Most underrated value of being in any kind of C-suite chair or organization, especially at that enterprise level, is project management. Mm-hmm. So although, Bob, you're absolutely right. You've gone from being a technical guru to somebody that has oversight of the organization's security focus. I would highly recommend, especially for all you CBT learners out there, Miss Mona does a wonderful project management course.
Yeah.
And it cannot be said enough that if once you enter that C-suite level position, that project management and the organization of workflows, whether it be agile or more traditional, to understand the plot of how a project is going, where we are at on status, where we're at on implementation. Where's the policy for it? Who develops that policy? And one of the things that I remember from being on the DoD side of the house is, as a CISO or CISO, how y'all pronounce it? I always call it CISO, just straight like that. We are in charge of a very specific area of that organization. No one person within the organization has all the expertise or all the keys to the castle. So that's why there is a CEO, a COO, a CIO, CIS, all these different C-suite chairs, because we are master of that one area, jack of all trades, master of one in this case. And so project management, agile learning, highly recommend it. Totally underrated inside of the IT organization training overall.
Yeah, I really can't emphasize enough like what Erik is saying. When somebody's becoming a CISO, you're just becoming part of the executives. And in this particular case, your focus tends to shift from being technical into somebody who is looking into the management of systems. And there is just a lot of reporting, for example, that is just one of the components where you have to understand, all right, a pen test was done, for example, and these are the results of the pen test. These are the tools that we use. But you have a number of people in that boardroom who do not understand what tools you're using. They simply want to be able to understand the report that would help them know why they have to invest so much in a particular project or in a particular product. So you are shifting from being a technical person. In fact, having technical knowledge is very helpful, but having project management skills, business skills, and understanding of how the business itself functions and what's likely to put you out of business, and what's likely to make you thrive even, further is more of great importance as opposed to just being a technical person who's able to run a patch and things like that.
Absolutely. And along those lines is risk management. That's a big part of it, because you have to understand risk and how to deal with it, because that's what security is all about, risk. Are you willing to accept the risk of this being the way it is, or do you want to change it so that you reduce your risk and the likelihood that something could happen? And I did mention the CISP certification earlier, but there's several others. Like there's the CISM and the CISA. And the C-Risk. There's actually a certification on risk, believe it or not. So it's out there. We've got it. So come check it out.
Hiring tip I can do easily: confidence. You've already done one of the hardest parts of getting ready for a cybersecurity position. That's passing Security Plus or any other certification. I specifically pick on Security Plus. If it was easy, everybody would have done it and everybody would have it. The fact that you put in the dedication and the training to be able to do this and the self-focus shows that you are ready for that position. The next part is understanding and doing some research behind the organization you want to work for. Don't pen test. Don't scan their networks, have permission, but do know if it's a mom and pop operation, kind of what you're expecting to see: point of sale systems, what kind of local network they have. Do they run any wireless? This is stuff you can see just by walking in and being a customer. But if it's a larger scale organization, be familiar with some of the larger scale IT support operations: AWS, Google, Microsoft Azure, stuff like that. Just don't put yourself in the dark needlessly if you don't have to. There's no question that they're going to ask that that's specific on their systems, because they're kind of giving up proprietary information at that point. And if you don't get the job, now you have their info. So
yeah. And along those lines, I'd say just do your homework. And this is with any job interview. Do your homework about the company. Know what they do. Because if you go in there and don't even know what they do, you're going to be asked probably, so what do you think about this or that? And if you don't even know what they do, then it's not a good start. But when it comes to security, the Security Plus is really more of an entry-level certification. And at this point, you're probably going for an entry-level job or one with little experience required. And you should understand what drives you. What do you like about security? Because if I'm going to ask somebody an interview question for a security analyst role, I'm going to say, well, what do you like about it? Well, what are you looking forward to? What drives you? And so if you have an idea of why you like security, what makes you get out of bed in the morning, then you're going to be able to answer those questions.
That's very true. In addition to that, I heard Erik saying point number one. If I were to say point number two, I would say know the basics. It's very important for you to just know the basic things about security and be informed about current things that are happening. If you are able to talk about maybe a latest breach, it actually gives a lot of meaning to the interviewer that you are somebody who is keeping in touch with the real world. You know what is going on. You know what things could actually be potentially harmful to that organization, in line with maybe previous types of breaches that have taken place. So having that kind of information would not only make you attractive to the person who is actually interviewing you, but at the same time, they give you that confidence to show that you are in touch with what is currently happening in the world of security.
Thanks for watching, and subscribe here to get the latest from CBT Nuggets. And if you're interested in IT career or learning more about IT in general, hey, swing by cbtnuggets.com and sign up for a free trial.